So, this is going to be the second actual episode of this one. We're going to talk about the fast moves. Every Pokemon in Pokemon Go has one singular fast move that it can use. It can swap between different ones still, but it can only have one fast move in battle. This is different compared to the charge moves, which you're going to have in a later episode here as well, where you're going to have two different ones. But yeah, basically fast moves are moves that you're going to be able to spam by just going for tapping on your screen. That's all that you have to do with that. And each fast move has a different duration. What this means is you basically have different amount of turns that those need. Turns are described as half a second in Pokemon Go. So, for example, a fast move like Shadow Claw, which is a very good fast move in Pokemon Go, is a 2-turn move. That means it needs exactly 1 second in order to be executed. So you can tap once, and then you're gonna can tap again, but the next one is gonna execute after 1 second. And this is kinda important because basically, yeah, you kinda need to know on how many turns you have there in order to see on if a move is good. For example, a move that needs 2 turns to do 5 damage is worse than a move that needs 1 turn to do 5 damage, which is quite obvious. So each fast move has a certain amount of damage, which we also kinda could expect here. The damage is going to be for Shadow Claw, for example, 6, which doesn't include the stab bonus, which could come on top. So if a Ghost type Pokemon, for example, goes for a Shadow Claw, a Ghost type move, there is going to be a 20% multiplier on top of it, so it does more damage there. This damage is also then calculated in a formula compared to your own attack and then against the opponent's defense in order to see as well on how much damage it actually totally does there. So like it's more of a complicated formula, we don't have to go over it. But basically 6 damage is very solid compared to other moves as well for a 2-turn fast move. But also basically every fast move is generating energy, which is the next thing that is very important for fast moves, of course, as those going to allow you to fire off charge moves. Like you need energy in order to get charge moves off. Charge moves need energy, basically get rid of energy, do more damage than for that, and have like sometimes secondary effects even. So for Shadow Claw, it generates 8 energy, which is very, very solid as well. Fast moves can range, by the way, on the term duration from 1 turn until like 5 turns. 1 turn, for example, would be Dragon Breath. It's a very strong fast move that generates a lot of energy nowadays. Was actually a very hard hitting fast move before, but it got changed in the recent season. And then we're going to have a move like the move Incinerate, which is currently the only 5-turn fast move which takes 2.5 seconds in order to be fully done and activated, but you get a lot of damage onto the opponent and generate a lot of energy with it as well, which kind of makes it still actually a very good fast move to use. But yeah, generally, in order to compare fast moves to each other, it kind of makes the most amount of sense to have with those different type moves, different fast moves. You kind of try to take a look at the damage and compare to on how much turns needs for it, and the same with energy and how much turns needs. For example, then, you're going to be able to kind of compare different kind of moves. For example, the move Charm is going to be something that is going to be able to do a lot of damage, but doesn't generate that much energy, even though it's like a higher turn there. While you have moves like a Lock On, which are going to be able to don't do a lot of damage, but then generate energy quite high in comparison to other one. Lock On is, for example, the move that generates the most amount of energy compared to any other, but also only does 1 damage per use, which is really, really bad. So, there's going to be some moves that are going to be good at both doing damage as well as generating energy. Those are generally favored, like for example Shadow Claw or Sucker Punch. Sucker Punch does more damage, doesn't generate as much energy, but Shadow Claw doesn't do as much damage as Sucker Punch does, but generates energy faster compared to that. So both of them are very good moves for different kind of reasons, but they're both kind of excelling well at both of the different kind of things they kind of want for a fast move. So what makes a fast move good is mainly the combination of the type, like the type of the fast move. For example, a Ghost type fast move is stronger than Bug type fast moves of the time, just because the Ghost typing is a better offensive type, as well as the combination of the Pokemon, of course, and the stats of this one. If you have like one that has a lot of attack, it's going to do more damage, but also Pokemon with a lot of attack, unless you're in the Master League, don't have as much bulk either, so like it's generally not recommended. But yeah, one of the biggest issues though for Pokemon Go, which are very confusing for newer players, is that in-game those stats are not displayed correctly, or at least well. The issue is that the damage of a move actually is displayed, I think, correctly for PvP battles in Pokemon Go in-game, but the issue is, especially for fast moves, what is missing is how much energy are they generating and how many turns are they. And this is a confusion that I saw especially early on for newer players, which really were struggling with PvP as well. Because I had like one example in my local community where someone was running the Ox defense, where they wanted to start trying to play PvP there. They were running Zen Headbutt as a fast move, which, yeah, is a bad move. It is a stab move on this Pokemon. It takes 8 damage as far as I know. I think it says there in game as well. But it takes the exact same damage apparently as Counter, which is also on it. But basically Counter generates energy faster and is a 2-turn fast move compared to Zen Headbutt, which is a 3-turn fast move and has less energy generation. So Zen Headbutt is one of the worst moves basically in the game because it doesn't have the stats in order to be really usable. While Counter was, especially at the time where this happened, one of the strongest fast moves in the game. It got nerfed afterwards because it was so strong. But basically this player was missing out on one of the best Pokemon in the game just because they had the wrong fast move in it. And it's just not really their fault because it's just not displayed well in the game. And this is where I would recommend you, especially if you're a newer battler who doesn't really know as much about like what kind of moves you want to use when. Go ahead and either watch my videos, of course, where I have all the time and movesets as well on the site. But also, otherwise, go onto PvPoke and check out the moveset for different Pokemons there. Because, again, it can be quite confusing if you just go by the in-game thing. You kind of need to have some outside resources in order to have all the knowledge that you kind of need for it. Because there's a ginormous difference if you have the right fast moves and charge moves compared to if you have the wrong ones in Pokemon GO PvP. And it's not very clear cut unless you know the exact stats of them, which are not displayed in game. And so this can be it kind of for the fast moves here. Now we can move on to the turn system as well as switching.